Hi, my name is Emily Parker. I'm 22 years old, and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a college student majoring in business administration at the University of Illinois. I have always loved learning new things, but one thing that has frustrated me for years is my struggle with English fluency. I could understand English perfectly when reading or listening, but speaking was a different story. Every time I tried to form a sentence, I felt stuck. My mind would translate everything from Spanish to English, and by the time I figured out the right words, the conversation had already moved on. I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household. My parents are originally from Mexico, and while they understand English, we mostly spoke Spanish at home. Even in school, where all the lessons were in English, I always thought in Spanish first. I didn't realize it at the time, but this habit was a big reason I struggled to speak English fluently. Whenever I had to talk to someone in English, whether in class, at a coffee shop, or even just asking for directions, I would get nervous. My brain would panic, and I'd start forming a sentence in Spanish before trying to translate it into English. This made my speech slow and unnatural. I would pause too much, second-guess myself, and sometimes even give up and switch to Spanish. It was frustrating because I knew I had the vocabulary and grammar knowledge, but my speaking skills didn't match my understanding. It wasn't until I met my friend Olivia that I truly started to change. Olivia and I met in college. She was born and raised in the U.S., so English was her first language. One day, she noticed my hesitation when speaking and asked me about it. I told her everything: how I understood English but couldn't speak fluently, how I kept translating in my head, and how it made me feel stuck. She smiled and said, "Emily, your problem isn't your vocabulary or grammar. Your problem is that you're still thinking in Spanish. You need to start thinking in English." At first, I didn't understand what she meant. How could I just switch my thinking? Spanish was my native language. It was natural to think in it. But Olivia explained that fluency isn't just about knowing words. It's about training your brain to process English without relying on another language. That conversation changed everything for me. It made me realize that if I wanted to become fluent, I had to stop thinking in Spanish first. I had to train my brain to think directly in English, but I didn't know how to do it. Olivia gave me a few strategies that helped her other bilingual friends, and I decided to try them. At first, it was difficult, but the more I practiced, the more natural it became. Here's what I did. 1. Describe everything around me in English. One of the first things I started doing was narrating my daily life in English. For example, if I was making coffee, instead of thinking, "Voy a hacer café," I would think, "I'm making coffee." If I was getting ready for class, I'd think, "I need to grab my books and my laptop." At first, I would pause, searching for the right words. But over time, my brain got faster at finding them. This simple habit forced me to process thoughts in English instead of automatically using Spanish. 2. Change my phone and social media to English. I changed the language on my phone, apps, and social media to English. It was a small change, but it made a big difference. Seeing English all the time helped me stay immersed in the language. I also started following English-speaking influencers and watching their videos. Instead of watching Spanish content, I forced myself to engage with English speakers. This helped me pick up natural expressions and slang. 3. Think in English before sleeping. One of Olivia's best tips was to think in English before bed. Instead of reflecting on my day in Spanish, I'd do it in English. I'd ask myself, what did I do today? What was the best part of my day? Even if I made mistakes, the goal was to train my brain to form thoughts in English naturally. 4th, talk to myself in English. I started having conversations with myself in English. It might sound silly, but it really helped. If I was alone, I'd say things like, "Okay, Emily, what are you going to do today? First, you need to study for your exam. Then go grocery shopping." By doing this, I got used to forming English sentences without hesitation. It made speaking feel less intimidating. 5. Stop translating in my head. This was the hardest part. I had to break the habit of translating from Spanish to English. Whenever I caught myself doing it, I'd stop and force myself to think of the sentence in English instead. For example, if I wanted to say, "Quiero comer algo," instead of translating word by word, I'd think directly in English. "I want to eat something." It took practice, but over time, my brain adjusted. 6th, practice with native speakers. I started talking to Olivia more in English, even when I was tempted to switch to Spanish. I also joined a language exchange group where I could practice speaking with native English speakers. The first few times, I felt nervous, but I reminded myself that making mistakes was okay. The more I spoke, the more confident I became. 7. Watch English TV shows without subtitles. At first, I relied on Spanish subtitles, but Olivia told me to stop. "You don't need them," she said. "Just listen and try to understand from context." It was challenging at first, but it helped my brain get used to English sounds and sentence structures. After a few months of practicing these techniques, I felt like I had made real progress, but I knew I wasn't done yet. Learning a language is a lifelong journey, and while I had trained my brain to think in English, I still faced challenges that tested my confidence. One of those challenges came when I had to give a presentation in my business class. Public speaking had always been difficult for me, but doing it in English made it even more nerve-wracking. I had to present a case study on a company's marketing strategy, and I wanted to do it without sounding robotic or unsure of myself. Facing the fear of public speaking in English. A week before my presentation, I started preparing by writing out everything I wanted to say. But this time, I did something different. I didn't write it in Spanish first. I forced myself to think in English from the beginning. It was slow at first, but I reminded myself that fluency comes from practice. Once I had my points outlined, I started practicing out loud. I stood in front of my mirror and spoke as if I were presenting to an audience. At first, I stumbled over my words, but the more I practiced, the more natural it felt. I also recorded myself speaking and listened back to identify areas where I hesitated or mispronounced words. This was a game changer. I noticed that sometimes I rushed through my sentences because I was nervous. Slowing down and focusing on clarity helped me sound more confident. Finally, the day of the presentation arrived. I stood in front of my classmates, heart pounding, but I took a deep breath and reminded myself, I've practiced for this. I can do it. And you know what? I did. I spoke clearly, without translating in my head. I didn't rely on my notes as much as I thought I would. I even made eye contact with my audience instead of staring at my slides. When I finished, my professor nodded approvingly, and Olivia gave me a thumbs up from across the room. It was one of the best moments of my journey toward fluency. Thinking in English in everyday life after that presentation, I realized how much I had grown. I wasn't just practicing English in structured ways anymore. I was truly living in English. I started dreaming in English. This was something Olivia had told me would happen eventually, and when it did, I was so excited. It meant that my brain was finally processing English at a subconscious level. I also noticed that I was able to switch between Spanish and English effortlessly. Before, my brain would get stuck when trying to go from one language to another. Now, I could speak with my family in Spanish and then instantly switch to English with my classmates, without any hesitation. Another milestone was when I got my first part-time job at a local cafe. It was a small coffee shop near campus, and most of the customers were native English speakers. On my first day, I was nervous. What if I didn't understand someone's order? What if I made a mistake? But as soon as I started talking to customers, I realized that all my practice had paid off. I didn't have to think twice before responding. I could make small talk, answer questions, and even joke with customers without feeling self-conscious. One day, a regular customer, an older woman named Mrs. Thompson, told me, "Your English is excellent. You sound so natural." That compliment meant the world to me, helping others overcome the same struggle. As I gained more confidence, I started helping other students who were going through the same struggles I had faced. I joined a language exchange group on campus where international students could practice their English in a safe and supportive environment. I met a girl named Sophia from Brazil who reminded me of myself a year ago. She understood English perfectly but hesitated when speaking. She told me, "I always think in Portuguese first, and by the time I translate, I feel lost." I smiled and said, "I know exactly how you feel. But trust me, the key is to start thinking in English." I shared all the techniques that had worked for me, and over time, I saw her confidence grow. Seeing someone else overcome their fears because of what I had learned was incredibly rewarding. Fluency is a journey, not a destination today. I can confidently say that thinking in English changed my life, pushing myself further. After reaching a level of comfort with thinking in English, I realized that my journey wasn't over. I had come a long way, but I wanted to challenge myself even more. I wanted to not just be fluent. I wanted to sound natural, confident, and expressive, like a native speaker. One day, Olivia and I were having coffee, and she said, "Emily, your English is great, but if you really want to take it to the next level, you should start focusing on expressions, slang, and intonation. That's what makes speech sound natural." She was right. While my grammar and vocabulary were solid, I still spoke in a very formal and structured way. I didn't use contractions as naturally as native speakers did, and sometimes I sounded stiff in casual conversations. So I set a new goal. I wanted to sound more natural in English. Learning native expressions and slang to do this, I started paying closer attention to how native speakers talked. I listened to Olivia, my professors, and even strangers at the cafe where I worked. I noticed little things, how they used phrases like, "What's up?" instead of, "How are you?" or how they shortened words like, "gonna" instead of, "going to." I also started watching TV shows and movies with a focus on picking up natural speech patterns. Whenever I heard a phrase I didn't understand, I wrote it down and looked it up later. Some of my favorite discoveries were, "It's a no-brainer," "It's an obvious choice," "I'm all ears," "I'm listening," "Hit me up," "Contact me," "That's on me," "It's my responsibility." I started using these phrases in my daily conversations, and at first, it felt a little awkward. But the more I used them, the more natural they became. One day at work, a customer asked if we had oat milk, and instead of my usual formal response, I casually said, "Oh yeah, we got you. Oat milk, no problem." I didn't even think about it. It just came out naturally. That was a huge moment for me. Mastering intonation and rhythm. Another thing I worked on was intonation, how my voice rose and fell while speaking. English has a natural rhythm, and I wanted to sound more like a native speaker. Olivia gave me a fun tip. Try mimicking native speakers word for word. Copy their tone, their pauses, everything. So I started practicing with YouTube videos, repeating sentences exactly as the speakers said them. I also listened to podcasts and repeated phrases out loud. At first, it felt silly, but I noticed something interesting. My speech started to sound more natural. Instead of speaking like a textbook, I was speaking like a real person, handling fast conversations and overcoming my last fear. Even though I had improved a lot, one thing still made me nervous. Fast conversations with native speakers. Sometimes, when talking to Olivia and her friends, they would speak so quickly that I struggled to keep up. I would understand most of what they were saying, but by the time I processed it and thought of a response, the conversation had already moved on. I felt frustrated, but instead of letting it discourage me, I focused on improving my listening speed. I started watching YouTube videos and podcasts at 1.5x speed to train my brain to process English faster. I also forced myself to participate in fast conversations, even if I wasn't completely confident. One night, Olivia invited me to a party where everyone was a native speaker. I was nervous but reminded myself that I had worked too hard to be silent. At first, I just listened. But then someone asked, "So Emily, what's your major?" Without hesitating, I replied, "Business administration." I love it, but man, some of the finance classes are brutal. They laughed, and just like that, I was in the conversation. I kept up, responded naturally, and even cracked a joke. That night, I realized something important. Fluency isn't about knowing every word. It's about confidence the moment I knew I had made it. A few weeks later, I had another major breakthrough. I was walking through campus when I overheard a group of students speaking in English. Normally, when I listened to conversations, my brain would focus on understanding the words and translating. But this time, something different happened. I wasn't translating. I was just understanding. It felt effortless, like I wasn't even thinking about it. That's when I knew that my brain had fully switched to thinking in English. I smiled to myself and thought, wow, I did it. The key to true fluency. Looking back, I realized that the secret to fluency wasn't just about memorizing grammar rules or vocabulary. It was about changing the way I thought in English. By immersing myself, challenging myself, and thinking in English every day, I reached a level of fluency I never thought possible. And if you're reading this, wondering if you can do the same, let me tell you, you absolutely can. Tips and tricks for mastering it. If you truly want to become fluent in English, there is one powerful habit you must develop: thinking in English. Many learners understand English well, but struggle to speak fluently because their mind still operates in their native language. The key to real fluency is to stop translating in your head and start processing thoughts directly in English. In this detailed guide, I will break down the importance of thinking in English and provide step-by-step techniques to help you train your brain for fluency. Why thinking in English is important for fluency. Many English learners face these common problems: slow responses in conversations. You understand what the other person is saying, but it takes time to translate your thoughts from your native language to English. Lack of confidence. You hesitate because you're afraid of making mistakes or not finding the right words. Struggles with pronunciation and sentence structure. Your thoughts come in your native language, which has different grammar and word order, making it harder to construct correct English sentences. Now, imagine a situation where you don't have to translate at all, where words and sentences naturally come to your mind in English. That's what happens when you train your brain to think in English. When you think in English, your fluency improves because you respond faster in conversations. You gain confidence because speaking feels natural. Your pronunciation and grammar improve automatically. You start using English like a native speaker. So, how do you actually train your brain to think in English? Let's go step by step. Step-by-step techniques to train your brain to think in English. 1. Start with simple words and phrases. If you've always thought in your native language, switching to English won't happen overnight. Start with small steps. Look around you and name objects in English. Example: if you are in your room, think, "This is my desk. My laptop is on the desk. I have a coffee mug." Use simple sentences to describe what you're doing. Example: when brushing your teeth, think, "I am brushing my teeth. My toothpaste tastes fresh." Ask yourself basic questions in English. Example: what should I eat for breakfast? Or, what do I need to do today? Doing this daily will help your brain get used to processing information in English. 2. Stop translating. Think directly in English. One of the biggest barriers to fluency is translating thoughts from your native language to English. This slows you down and makes speaking difficult. How to stop translating? Use words you already know. If you don't know a word, try describing it instead of translating it. Example: if you don't know the word frustrated, think, "I feel bad because something is not working," except that you won't always have the perfect word. Native speakers sometimes struggle for words too. Instead of stopping, keep the conversation going. Practice with easy sentences. Example: instead of translating, "I had a long day at work," just think, "Work was hard today." The goal is to train your brain to function in English without relying on your first language. 3. Talk to yourself in English. If you don't have someone to practice with, talk to yourself. It may feel strange at first, but this is one of the fastest ways to train your brain to think in English. Think out loud when doing daily activities. Example: I need to buy groceries. I should get some apples, milk, and bread. Have full conversations with yourself. Example: imagine you're meeting someone for the first time. Ask yourself, "Hi, how are you?" Then answer, "I'm good, thank you. How about you?" Narrate what's happening around you. Example: I'm waiting for the bus. The weather is nice today. Speaking out loud helps connect your thoughts with spoken English, making it easier to express yourself naturally. 4. Immerse yourself in English every day. To think in English, you need to surround yourself with English as much as possible. Here's how. Change your phone and apps to English. Watch TV shows, YouTube videos, and movies in English. Pay attention to how native speakers talk. Listen to English music and podcasts. Even if you don't understand everything, it helps your brain adapt to the language. Read in English. Books, articles, or even social media posts will expose you to natural English sentence structures. The more your brain is surrounded by English, the easier it will be to think in English naturally. 5. Use the 5-second rule in conversations. When speaking English, don't overthink your sentences. Give yourself only 5 seconds to think before responding. If someone asks, "What's your favorite food?" Instead of thinking in your native language, immediately respond, "I love pizza because it's cheesy and delicious." Even if your sentence isn't perfect, speaking quickly without hesitation helps you build fluency. 6. Practice thinking in English at different levels. Once you're comfortable thinking in simple sentences, challenge yourself with more complex thoughts. Beginner level. Think in single words and short sentences. Example: coffee, laptop, studying. It's cold outside. Intermediate level. Describe your day and feelings. Example: today was a busy day. I studied in the morning, then went to the gym. Advanced level. Express opinions and thoughts. Example: I think online education is great because it allows people to learn from anywhere. The more complex your thoughts become, the closer you get to full fluency. 7. Record yourself speaking in English. One of the best ways to improve fluency is to record yourself speaking. Pick a topic and talk for 1 to 2 minutes without stopping. Listen to your recording and note areas where you hesitate or struggle. Repeat the exercise daily to see improvement. This method helps you gain confidence, identify mistakes, and build fluency over time. Mastering the art of thinking in English. A deeper dive. Now that you understand the importance of thinking in English and the basic techniques to achieve it, let's go even deeper into the process. In this section, I'll expand on practical exercises, mindset shifts, and real-life applications to ensure that you not only train your brain to think in English, but also make it a lifelong habit. 1. The mindset shift. Seeing English as your own language. One of the biggest challenges English learners face is treating English as a foreign language. You might think, English is not my first language, so I will always struggle with it. This mindset is what holds many learners back. To truly think in English, you must change how you see English. Instead of treating it as something external, make it a natural part of your daily life. Adopt an English-first mindset. Whenever you hear or see something, Try to process it in English before thinking about it in your native language. Stop fearing mistakes. No one speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. Thinking fluently in English does not mean thinking perfectly. It means thinking efficiently. Make English your comfort zone. The more you expose yourself to English, the more natural it will feel. Surround yourself with the language until it becomes second nature. 2. Building an English environment, even if you're alone. Many learners say, "I don't live in an English-speaking country, so I can't think in English all the time." But here's the truth. You don't need to be in the US, UK, or Canada to think in English. You can create an English-speaking environment wherever you are. Practical steps to build your own English world. Use English for everyday tasks. Write your to-do lists in English. Set reminders on your phone in English. Read labels, signs, and instructions in English. Surround yourself with English sounds. Listen to English music, podcasts, and audiobooks daily. Watch English movies and TV shows with English subtitles. Change your phone and social media settings to English. Find an English-speaking community. Join online groups, forums, or language exchange platforms. Engage in English conversations on social media. If possible, make friends with English speakers. The goal is to make English so present in your life that you naturally start thinking in it. 3. Advanced thinking exercises. Training your brain like a native speaker. If you've already started thinking in English with basic words and phrases, it's time to take it to the next level. The following exercises will help you train your brain to function in English like a native speaker. Exercise 1. Picture word association. This technique helps you think in English without translation. Look at an object and immediately think of its English name. Try to describe it using at least 3 words. Example: you see a tree. Immediately think, tall, green, leaves. Challenge yourself. Create a short sentence about it. Example: the tree is tall and full of green leaves. This exercise forces your brain to connect words directly with meaning instead of translating them. Exercise 2. The describe your surroundings. Game everywhere you go. Practice describing your environment in English. Example: you're sitting in a cafe. Think, I am sitting in a cozy cafe. The walls are decorated with paintings. A man is reading a newspaper at the table next to me. The smell of fresh coffee fills the air. This trains your brain to form fluid English thoughts in real time. Exercise 3. Internal debates and conversations. Have mini debates or discussions in your head. In English. Pick a topic and argue both sides. Example: is online learning better than traditional schools? Think, online learning is flexible and allows students to study at their own pace. But traditional schools offer in-person interaction, which helps with communication skills. Talk to yourself as if you're having a real conversation. Example: you. I need to decide what to eat for dinner. You. Maybe I'll have pasta, but I had pasta yesterday. You. How about a salad? It's healthy and easy to make. This forces your brain to think in English naturally and respond quickly. Exercise 4. 1-minute challenge. Give yourself 1 minute to speak about a topic without stopping. Pick a random topic, e.g., your favorite hobby, your last vacation, a movie you like. Set a timer for 1 minute and talk non-stop. Don't worry about mistakes. Just keep talking. Example. Topic: my favorite food. My favorite food is sushi. I love it because it's fresh, delicious, and healthy. There are many types of sushi, like salmon, tuna, and shrimp rolls. I usually eat sushi once a month with my friends. It's a great meal, and I always enjoy it. This trains your fluency and thinking speed in English. 4. Overcoming common struggles when thinking in English. Even when you start thinking in English, you might face some difficulties. Here's how to overcome them. Problem 1. I can't find the right words. Solution: use simple words or describe what you mean. Instead of struggling to remember exhausted, just say, I feel very tired. Problem 2. I still translate sometimes. Solution: be patient. Catch yourself when translating and try to switch back to English immediately. The more you practice, the less you'll translate. Problem 3. I forget words mid-sentence. Solution: keep talking. If you forget fridge, say that cold place where we keep food. This keeps your thoughts flowing. Problem 4. I get nervous when speaking. Solution: practice thinking in English alone first, then gradually speak with others. Confidence will come with practice. Your journey to fluency starts today. If you commit to thinking in English daily, you will notice a huge improvement in fluency. You will speak naturally without hesitation. Confidence. You won't be afraid to have conversations. Pronunciation. Your speech will become clearer. Grammar. Your sentences will improve effortlessly. The secret to fluency is not about knowing more words. It's about making English a part of your thinking process. So start right now. Describe your surroundings. Have conversations in your head. And challenge yourself to think in English all day. Mastering the art of thinking in English. Going even deeper. By now, you understand why thinking in English is the key to fluency and how to train your brain to do it. But to make it a natural habit, you need consistency, creativity, and persistence. In this section, I'll go even deeper into techniques, real-life applications, and hidden secrets that will help you become so comfortable with English that you won't even realize you're thinking in another language. 1. Making English your automatic language. One of the most powerful changes you can make is rewiring your brain to use English automatically. Instead of making a conscious effort to think in English, you should reach a point where your brain naturally chooses English first. How to train your brain to default to English. Catch yourself translating and stop immediately. If you notice your brain switching back to your native language, pause and correct yourself. Example: you see a cat. Instead of thinking, "Oh, that's a cat," after translating from your language, just think, "That's a cat." Force your brain to find English alternatives. If you forget a word, don't switch to your native language. Instead, describe it in English. Example: if you forget refrigerator, say, the cold place where we keep food. Use inner narration throughout the day. As you go about your daily activities, describe what you're doing in English. Example: I'm brushing my teeth. The toothpaste is minty. Now I'm putting on my shoes and getting ready to leave. Think in English when making decisions. If you're choosing what to eat, what to wear, or what to watch, do it in English. Example: instead of thinking, should I wear the red dress or the black one? In your native language, think, I think the black dress looks better today. 2. Mastering speed, thinking faster in English. A common problem for learners is slow thinking in English. Even if they can form thoughts, it takes too long. Here's how to speed up your thinking process so you can talk naturally without hesitation. Techniques to think faster in English. Shadowing, immediate imitation. Listen to native speakers, podcasts, movies, YouTube videos. Immediately repeat what they say, word for word, with the same speed and rhythm. This forces your brain to process English faster. Rapid fire, thinking practice. Give yourself 10 seconds to describe an object in detail. Example: look at a chair and say, this is a brown wooden chair. It has 4 legs. It's comfortable to sit on. Keep doing this with different objects until you can describe things quickly. Time yourself. While speaking, pick a topic and speak for 1 minute without stopping. Slowly decrease the time. Try saying the same thing in 45 seconds, then 30 seconds. This helps train your brain to think and respond faster. Speed reading plus summarizing. Read a short English article as fast as you can. After reading, summarize it in your own words. Example: if you read a news article about the weather, say, it's going to rain tomorrow. The temperature will drop. People should bring an umbrella. This forces your brain to process information quickly in English. 3. Turning thinking into speaking. Eliminating the fear. A major problem learners face is being able to think in English but feeling nervous when speaking. Why does this happen? Fear of mistakes, worrying about grammar or pronunciation, lack of confidence, feeling shy or afraid of judgment, slow thinking process, taking too long to find words. How to overcome this fear? Talk to yourself aloud. Thinking is great, but you need to hear your own voice. Speak aloud even if no one is around. Example: when cooking, say, now I'm cutting the vegetables. I need to add salt. The food smells delicious. Practice mirror conversations. Stand in front of a mirror and pretend you're talking to someone. Example: if you have a presentation, practice. Hello, everyone. Today I will talk about. This builds confidence and makes English speaking feel natural. Record yourself and listen back. Choose a topic. Record yourself speaking, then listen. Identify where you hesitate and practice improving it. This helps you get used to hearing your own English voice. Use conversational drills with questions. Imagine someone asks you, "What's your favorite movie?" Answer immediately without thinking in your native language. Example: my favorite movie is Inception. It's exciting and has a great story. Do this with different questions every day. 4. Making thinking in English a daily habit. You can only get fluent if you make English thinking part of your daily routine. Daily schedule to think in English morning. When you wake up, describe your plans for the day in English. Example: today I have class at 10 a.m. Then I'll go to the gym. After that, I'll study English for an hour. Afternoon. While eating lunch, describe your meal in English. Example, I'm eating pasta. It's delicious and has a lot of cheese. Evening. Before sleeping, reflect on your day in English. Example, today was a good day. I finished my homework. I watched a movie. Tomorrow, I'll practice English more. 5. Hidden secrets that native speakers use. There are some things native English speakers do that help them think quickly and speak fluently. You can copy these habits to improve faster. Secret 1. Chunking, learning in phrases, not words. Instead of memorizing words one by one, learn phrases. Example, instead of learning because and I was tired, learn I didn't go out because I was tired. Secret 2. Using filler words like a native speakers, use words like you know, like, well, actually, when thinking. Example, well, I think it's a good idea because, it helps people learn faster. Using fillers makes you sound more natural. Secret 3. Copying native pronunciation patterns. Record native speakers and repeat exactly how they say things. Focus on intonation, rhythm, and speed. Example, instead of saying, "What do you want?" slowly say, "What do you want?" like a native. The journey to English thinking never ends. Fluency is not about perfection. It's about comfort and confidence. The more you practice, the more natural English will feel. Train your brain daily. Stop translating and trust your English ability. Expose yourself to English 24/7. Challenge yourself to think and speak faster. The more you think in English, the more fluent you become. Start today, and soon, you won't just speak English. You'll live in English. Living and breathing English by now. You've learned how to think in English, eliminate translation, speak faster, and build confidence. But the final step to true fluency is living and breathing English every single day. Fluent speakers don't just practice English. They immerse themselves in it so deeply that it becomes second nature. In this final section, I'll share advanced strategies, mindset shifts, and real-life applications to help you fully integrate English into your life. 1. Total immersion. Surround yourself with English 24/7. To think in English effortlessly, you must create an environment where English is everywhere. Even if you're not in an English-speaking country, you can build an English world around you. How to immerse yourself in English every day. Change your phone and computer language to English. Your brain will automatically start processing English in daily tasks. Think in English first, even for complex ideas. If you have a deep thought, train yourself to express it in English instead of your native language. Example, instead of thinking, "Why do people hesitate when speaking a new language?" In your language, think it in English. People hesitate because they fear mistakes. But mistakes are part of learning. Make English your main entertainment source. Watch TV shows, YouTube videos, podcasts, and audiobooks only in English. Example, instead of watching a movie in your native language, watch the English version, even if you don't understand everything. Follow English-speaking social media influencers. Your brain will constantly be exposed to native speech, slang, and casual expressions. Write a personal diary in English every night. Write about your day in English. Example, today was a busy day. I studied for my test and had coffee with my friend. I felt tired, but I was happy to practice English. 2. Emotional connection. Make English personal. A major reason people struggle with fluency is lack of emotional connection. You need to make English deeply personal so that your brain attaches strong meaning to it. Ways to emotionally connect with English. Have a secret identity in English. Choose an English name or personality. Example: if your name is Maria, you can be Mary in English. When you speak in English, become that person. Attach English to important life events. If you fall in love, make English the language of your relationship. If you have a big goal, write it in English. Use English for your deepest thoughts. Whenever you feel happy, sad, or excited, describe your emotions in English. Example: instead of thinking, "I'm so tired today" in your native language, say, "I feel exhausted, but I'm proud of my progress." Make English your thinking language for dreams and goals. If you imagine your future, picture it in English. Example: if you dream of traveling, visualize yourself saying, "I am in New York. This city is amazing." 3. Building automatic responses. Sounding natural without thinking. If you want to sound like a native speaker, you must train your brain to respond without hesitation. Techniques to build automatic responses. Practice instant replies. Set a 5-second rule. Whenever someone asks you something in English, respond instantly. Example: if someone says, "How are you?" don't think, just say, "I'm good, thanks. How about you?" Memorize common phrases and reactions. Learn short automatic responses for daily conversations. Example: "That's awesome. I totally agree." "Oh, I see what you mean." Use role-playing to simulate real conversations. Imagine you're in an English-speaking country. Act out ordering coffee, booking a hotel, or introducing yourself. Copy native speakers word for word. Find a short video of a native speaker. Repeat exactly how they say it, with the same tone and speed. This helps you sound natural without translating. 4. Overcoming plateaus. How to keep improving forever after some time. Learners hit a fluency plateau where progress slows down. This is normal, but you must push through it. How to keep improving when you feel stuck. Challenge yourself with faster English. Listen to faster conversations and try to keep up. Example: watch an English movie without subtitles and try to understand. Engage in deep conversations. Instead of basic English, discuss deep topics. Example: instead of saying, "I like movies," say, "I prefer psychological thrillers because they challenge my mind." Surround yourself with people who speak better English. Find English-speaking friends who are more fluent than you. Your brain will adapt to their level. Teach English to someone else. When you explain concepts to others, you improve faster. Example: teach new words to a beginner. The final mindset shift. Becoming a confident English thinker, fluency isn't just about words and grammar. It's about confidence and identity. You need to see yourself as someone who speaks English naturally. The final mindset shift. Becoming a confident English thinker, fluency isn't just about words and grammar. It's about confidence and identity. You need to see yourself as someone who speaks English naturally. How to develop a confident English identity. Stop saying, "My English is bad." Instead, say, "I'm improving every day." See yourself as an English speaker. If someone asks, "Do you speak English?" don't hesitate. Say yes with confidence. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are proof that you're learning. Every fluent speaker once struggled. They just didn't quit. Keep moving forward. English is a journey, not a destination. There's no final point where you're done learning. Even native speakers learn new words daily. Your fluency breakthrough starts now. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most learners. Now, it's time to take action. Commit to thinking in English every day. Challenge yourself to think faster and respond quicker. Immerse yourself in English and make it a part of your life. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. One day soon, you'll realize, wow, I just had an entire conversation in English without even thinking about it. That's the moment when English becomes effortless. And trust me, that moment is closer than you think. The final step. Embracing English as a part of your life. As I look back on my journey, I realize that thinking in English was the key to everything. It wasn't just about memorizing words or grammar. It was about rewiring my brain to function naturally in English. At first, it felt impossible. I doubted myself, struggled with mistakes, and sometimes wanted to quit. But over time, something changed. The more I immersed myself, practiced, and embraced English as part of my daily life, the more it became effortless. One day, I was having a conversation with a native speaker, and suddenly I realized I wasn't translating anymore. Words flowed naturally, my responses were instant, and I didn't feel nervous. I was thinking in English. That was the moment I knew I had achieved fluency. And you can too. Final tips for mastering English thinking and fluency. Before I end my story, here are my final words of advice for anyone who wants to think, speak, and live in English fluently. 1. Stop translating. Start thinking in English. The moment you stop translating, fluency begins. Train your brain to express ideas directly in English. Even for complex thoughts, find a way to describe them in simple English. 2. Immerse yourself in English 24/7. Listen, speak, read, and write in English as much as possible. Change your phone, social media, and daily activities to English. Surround yourself with the language even if you're not in an English-speaking country. 3. Speak without fear. Mistakes are normal. Every fluent speaker once struggled. Speak even if you make mistakes. It's the only way to improve. Confidence is more important than perfection. 4. Build automatic responses for everyday conversations. Memorize common phrases, expressions, and replies. Train yourself to answer instantly without hesitation. React in English as naturally as you would in your native language. 5. Develop an emotional connection with English. Attach English to your goals, dreams, and emotions. Think about your future, relationships, and ambitions in English. The more personal English becomes, the faster your fluency will grow. 6. Never stop learning. Fluency is a journey, not a destination. Even native speakers learn new words every day. Push yourself with new challenges. faster speech, deeper conversations, and advanced vocabulary. Stay patient and keep going. Fluency doesn't happen overnight, but every small step brings you closer. The final thought: you are closer than you think. If you've made it this far, you're already on the right path. You have the mindset, the tools, and the motivation to think in English fluently. Now it's just about consistency. The more you practice, the easier it gets. One day, you'll wake up and realize, I'm thinking in English automatically. And that's the moment you'll know you've truly become fluent. So don't stop now. Start thinking in English today and watch your fluency grow faster than ever. Your English journey starts now. Love Heart Globe.